Once again, hello from me. My name is Andrea Ratner. I'm here today to present the Master Study of Biological Chemistry. I am currently working at the newly established Institute of Biochemistry at the JKU, and I myself graduated from this study 9 years ago. So if you have some more personal questions afterwards, feel free to ask. So what you will hear about is the main focus points, what's the uniqueness of this study program in comparison to the others, what the students are actually taught about, what are the lectures, what are the practicals, what are the job opportunities after graduating from this study program, and then some typical questions which we get all the time from the students. And of course, I will also give you a way how you can reach to the people directly involved in the study program and to the administration and so on. So it is a cross-border bilateral study between two universities. So between JKU in Linz, Austria, and then University of South Bohemia, which is located in České Budějovice in the Czech Republic. It is familiarly known as Budweis in Austria, and it's only 1 hour drive from Linz, but it is already across the border. The program itself was established in 2010 as a follow-up program to the formerly established bachelor study program of the biological chemistry, which started 3 years earlier. It is fully held in English language on both sides of the border. Students are full students of both universities, so they are registered for the whole time of the study in JKU, but also at the University of South Bohemia in Budweis. And in the end, they will have one joint master degree. So one of the unique features of this study is that it takes 5 semesters. As you might already know, typical master study takes only 4 semesters. So the last semester is reserved extra for just the practical work on the master thesis, so on a bigger research project. The first 2 semesters are spent in Linz, and they are dedicated more to the chemistry and technology oriented subjects. And the second year is then spent in Budweis, so semesters 3 and 4, and there the main focus is more on molecular biology, genetics, biochemistry, gene engineering, and so on. So the overall idea of establishing this program, but also it's a bachelor variant, was to fill up the gap in the region of Upper Austria and South Bohemia for students who are capable to have interdisciplinary education in both life sciences, but also chemistry or more technical chemistry, and to really merge of both of those worlds. And as I already mentioned, the last semester is booked for the master thesis. From our experience or from the experience of the students, they usually start much earlier, already in the first or second semester, which just gives you much more time and opportunity to really work on the research topic, to obtain better and more results, to maybe even get some publication before graduating. And we already had students who managed to finish everything within 4 semesters. So then it was the standard study length as compared to the other master programs. And you will get actually 2 titles. So one is in front of your name, that's the Master of Science, that is from JKU. And sorry, that's after the name. And before the name, you will get MGR, which is short for Magister. So that's the Czech equivalent of the Master of Sciences. And since the study is fully held in English, it is also highly international. So our students don't come just from Czech Republic or Austria. Actually, at least 30 or up to 40% of those are from other EU and non-EU countries. So they really span almost all of the globe. We have lots of students from Europe generally, but also from Asia, Africa, and America, and so on. So how is this study program unique besides being it a cross-border study? And the orientation of merging those 2 worlds of like life sciences or biochemistry and biology and the chemistry and technical sciences. Maybe now I would tell you more about the other University of South Bohemia, which you might not hear about during these open days at JKU otherwise. So It turned 30 years old last year, so it's a relatively very young university, but still growing and adapting to the all the newer methodologies and also study programs. It has been modernized in a couple of past years. Now we have a completely new building for the Faculty of Sciences, where all the labs for the student practicals, but also for the research projects are located. For instance, the dormitories in here are located directly on the campus, and they are run by the university, which means that the prices are also much more affordable. And for you, practically, it means that you can really reach the campus or the lecture hall within 2-3 minutes of walking distance. So you are always available to be in the lab the whole day as well. The equipment has been modernized as well. So now there are some few smaller centers which are specialized. For instance, recently they have a new MS center for the mass spectroscopy and the proteomics. So they are always buying new and updated equipment as well. What is a huge advantage is a very tight cooperation between the Faculty of Science in Budweis and the Czech Academy of Sciences, because just on the campus, a big biology center of the Czech Academy of Sciences is located, and this features few institutes which also offer topics for the master thesis to the students. So then they have a unique chance to really work on a real research project for the whole study time, for instance. And what you can see on the picture in the middle is another outfield location of the university. So this is an old mill, which is in the lake district, so to say, that's located 30 minutes from Budweis by car. And they have turned it into a research object where they work on the determination or the processes of the algae. So it is a lot of photosciences, biology, but also genetical engineering, protein engineering, and so on. And the study is not international just from the point of view of the students, but also for the professors. So we have a lot of guest professors from other universities from abroad, or also from the Czech Academy of Sciences. So that's in the second year. There are lots of other professors coming from Prague, for instance, to give the lectures. And then as a result, a lot of these lectures are blocked. So it means that you don't have a full schedule over the whole semester, but rarely you will have blocks of clustered subjects, and in between you have lots of time to do some research work. And as I already mentioned, the main focus is here on the molecular biology, genetics, biochemistry, and so on. So what are the main study features of the program, or what the students will get trained in? It's basically to learn how to problem solve in life sciences and in the chemistry fields. The education is highly interdisciplinary, so that gives you a unique opportunity to really not to think out of the box and employ the techniques or the principles learned in some completely different field and apply them to the specific program and so on. Of course, also the communication skills are really important, because for any scientist, no matter how good your results are, you also have to be able to publish them very clearly and translate the knowledge to the other audience. And of course, students can practice that within the small seminars, but also at the conferences, either as a poster presentation or as an oral presentation. So they also have an opportunity to take part in these international events, generally in the science. The expertise lies mainly in the bioanalytical chemistry, bioorganic chemistry, so meaning mainly synthesis chemistry, but also biochemistry, coupled with the structural biology and so on. A big value is on the practical skills and on the practical work. So about 25 to 30% of all the subjects are practical courses or small seminars. So each semester you will have some focus on the practical work, be it organic synthesis or really design of a recombinant protein or genetic engineering and so on. So this is just an overview of a typical study plan for a graduate of the bachelor study of biological chemistry. So here you have all the clusters of compulsory subjects, but then also elective subjects, free elective subjects, and so on. So most of the subjects are basically elective. That means that the profile of each of the students will be very different from the other one. So what is compulsory is chemistry and technology block for biological chemists or for the other graduates of other bachelor degrees. So this master program is accessible also for the graduates of molecular biology, chemistry or chemical technology, Navitech, and so on. Also for other chemistry studies from grads, for instance, or from CREMS. They will just have a slightly adapted curriculum. So maybe for those who graduated in chemistry-related bachelor study programs, they will have to catch up more on the life sciences subjects, so they will have some additional ones, but they won't have to do as much as the chemistry as a typical biology chemistry student, and vice versa. Of course, if we have graduates from molecular biology joining for the master degree, they will have to add in a lot of additional chemistry subjects to catch up on what has been done in the bachelor degree. So just to give you an idea what these types of subjects could be. So if you choose something from the chemical specializations, then you have a list of subjects where you can really tailor it to your needs. We have lots of nuclear magnetic resonance spectroscopy, either used for the study of the small molecules or for large biomacromolecules. There are structures, functions, and dynamics. But then you can also have lab course in organic electronics, which is completely different field. Or you can have structure and properties of biological materials. You can have bionics, or again, going towards more computational stuff. It is a lot of modeling, molecular dynamics, simulations of biological macromolecules, and so on. Then in Budweis, there is again one shorter compulsory block, which is called biology and biochemistry, which includes gene and protein engineering, bioenergetic, for instance, again, molecular modeling. And this is again, same for all of the students. But then you can choose which of the biological electives sub-course subjects would you choose, and there is a lot of microscopy, not only electron microscopy, fluorescence microscopy, and so on, including a lot of practicals, or drug design as biopharmacy, or currently highly interesting virology or immunology, working with the cell lines, and so on. And so what the students will actually learn for the techniques and methodologies in the analytical department or instrumental analysis, it is a lot of MS, so mass spectroscopy, other types of spectroscopies like fluorescence, IR, as already mentioned, NMR spectroscopy, but also electrophoresis, lots and lots of chromatography, starting with column chromatography used in the chemical synthesis and ending up with the HPLC of proteins. Also antibody tests, protein sequencing, but biophysical methods as colorimetry or patch clamp methods, and of course PCR, which our students will know now by heart, and because they were also actively involved in the testing against the COVID-19 at the faculty. Then other major focus is structure analysis of molecules of organisms. So it really spans a broad range of the things. It starts with the sequencing of the DNA, then a lot of different microscopies, either fluorescent microscopy for the cells or confocal microscopy or cryogenical electron microscopy, which is growing in the interest over the past few years. And in Budweis at the Biology Center, they have actually a very nice facility for the cryo-EM. So this is the picture which you can see on the left side. And they have also great practicals for the students, which are included in this kind of a program. lots of MD dynamics and lots of NMR spectroscopy, as I already mentioned, but also Raman spectroscopy, another sequencing, X-ray crystallography, which is mainly used for the structure determination of proteins. And then one of the newly updated state-of-the-art methodologies like CRISPR, synthesis of DNA, use of stable isotope labelings for proteins, cloning. This is also one of the basic things which students will learn in the practicals. And then synthesis of peptides up to synthesis of proteins. So either you will learn at the beginning synthesis of peptides in solution by a chemical reaction, or on the solid phase synthesizer, which is the so-called Mehr field automated peptide synthesis. And then you end up learning how to produce a recombinant protein in the bacterial cells, for instance. So what are the typical job opportunities after graduating this master study program? So as you might already know, Linz has a big advantage of being a center of the chemical industry. So if you profile yourself more towards the synthesis or a technical chemist kind of view, then of course you have great chances of being accepted to any of the companies which are located in the Linz. But also because this program is really highly interdisciplinary, you have many more opportunities to either go for the state agencies or agencies at the EU level, or you can end up working in the middle up to really large industries in the biotechnology field, so or biopharmacy field as well. So this can be divided into white biotechnology, red, green, and so on, depending on if it's more towards the biomedical analysis or the sciences, or if it's more really industrial biotechnology and the process development and product development and synthesis, or in the green biotechnology, really more about the phytochemistry and so on. But generally, analytical techniques, instrumental analysis is very sought of right now in any kind of these companies. And of course, medicinal diagnostics and developing of the technologies used in that field. If you end up with a master and you don't want to go for higher education, you can find job relatively easy, I would say, as either a junior scientist or working in the research and development or in the quality control. And this is just a short overview of all the places where our students went so far. But you can see almost half of them decide to continue in the PhD. This is probably because you are so used to academical research or the basic research. Probably I would say, or that was also my personal experience, we just don't want to quit that right after the master. We just wanted to learn more and maybe expand into some other fields. So they have no problems applying into university across the whole world. So they have been accepted everywhere. But then again, if you want to go into the industry, sometimes it's even easier with a master than with a PhD degree. So if you know already that you want to really work, for instance, in the R&D or quality control, or in some kind of a product development, that's completely fine after having just the master, because it's not just the master. Okay, so what are the most asked questions in this kind of study program? Are there some kind of scholarship? Yes, there are scholarships. So for Austrian students or students living in the Upper Austria, there is a special scholarship for having good grades, so to say. But for all of the students, there is a scholarship for going abroad in the second year to the University of South Bohemia, which is also called Erasmus Plus scholarship, which covers not only the expenses for the dormitories, but there's also living expenses for food and traveling and so on. So that's really more than enough. And the accommodation in general, how does it work in the Czech Republic? So there, all of the dormitories are really connected officially to the university. So they are run by the university. They might not be as nice or as modern as the private ones, but they are mostly located directly on the campus. And usually all of the students get a place in there if they book it up on time. But especially in České Budějovice, there's also a private dormitory just next to the campus, or many students go just for a shared living in the apartments. And the last typical question is, how about the master thesis, where you want to do it? Is it possible to do it as a cooperation with a company? Yes, of course. We had already a lot of students who did it this way. You just need to seek out a supervisor at either JKU or at the University of South Bohemia, depending on the topic of the master thesis, to then lead the writing and the topic and the scope of the thesis, but the student can then carry out the practical work at the company, which often then leads to getting a job at the company right afterwards, after the graduation. So at the end, I would just like to share the most important contact addresses, of course, to the general admission office and sorry, and the info for students. You can see them on the left side, and they are also at the JKU main webpage. Concerning to the biological chemistry, there's a group of people who are involved in the running of this kind of curriculum. And currently it is Professor Waser from the Institute of Organic Chemistry, who is I would like to call it the main coordinator or the preses. So this is the person who needs to, for instance, check your curriculum if you're applying for the master, which kind of curriculum variation you would need, and so on, recognition of the different subjects from the other universities, etc. In the future, it will be transferred to the Institute of Biochemistry, which was just founded in the last autumn, and then all these things will most probably also end up with Professor Franz Mulder. And I am also currently working in here, so I'm voluntarily just helping students with the practical things and if they have any kinds of questions. So I'm always available, so you can just write me an email. Or we have a common email address as well, or you can find more information at the JKU webpage. So I think that will be all from me. If you have any questions, you can ask now.
Just a little question. Would you say that it's that this study is hard? So would you say biological chemistry is hard to study?
It depends. I mean, for instance, in the chemistry kind of subjects, it's not that easier than the typical chemistry curriculum, because you still have to pass through all of the main subjects as chemists do as well. So you don't get many cutouts. You, for instance, just have, for instance, one semester of the organic chemistry instead of two, and so on. At the beginning, it's usually hard for the people who don't have that much background in the technical sciences, because if you haven't had any mathematics or physics or any kind of chemistry before, there is a steeper learning curve. But once you get past that, I think it is manageable. So it really depends on what you are expecting from the study as well. So it's not biology. It has just a little few things from the biology department, but it's really more like life sciences, which is a biochemistry, genetics, molecular biology. So it is a combination. It depends what your interests are. If you are really interested in these fields, then I think you won't find it hard, because especially in the master, there are more of the smaller subjects. So the subjects which are more oriented towards some specific topic, you know, so they are not that broad. They won't give you a whole overview of biochemistry. No, you would have, for instance, a small lecture on xenobiochemistry and toxicology, which is already very specific. So then it is also up to the student, which kind of subjects do you choose?
Okay, thanks.
Welcome. And I also forgot to mention that we have a Facebook page and Facebook group that is really useful if you decide that you want to study biological chemistry, both bachelor and master, because there are most of the students who are either actively studying or who has studied it in the past. So you can ask them any kind of personal questions, you know, with no strings attached, without the professors and so on. So if there are no more questions, sorry, there is some in the chat. Thank you, you're very welcome. Then I will just stop recording.